Welcome to the We Can Fix Climate Change podcast, where we bring the stories featured in our weekly Substack newsletter to life. In today's episode, we'll cover upcoming climate protest events, Portuguese youths suing European countries for climate inaction, the G20's fossil fuel subsidies, the increase in renewable energy in the US, Ecuador's rejection of Amazon oil drilling, Germany's criticised climate plan, and the rise of heat-related deaths linked to climate change. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to stay informed and inspired with our latest episodes.
There are a couple of climate protest events that we would like to make you aware of in the US and the UK. In the US, there is the March to End Fossil Fuels scheduled for September 17th in New York City, specifically at 56th and Broadway. This climate event has garnered support from 500 endorsing organizations. For more information about the event, including details about organizers and additional resources, please visit their website at endfossilfuels.us. Moving over to the UK, Just Stop Oil is actively organizing individuals to help draw attention to the pressing climate crisis. They have planned 3 upcoming protest events, which will take the form of week-long marches, starting the week of October 29th and continuing through the week of November 12th in London. Just Stop Oil is affiliated with the A22 Network, an international collective with partner organizations in the United States and Europe. To get a better understanding of the initiatives these affiliated organizations are undertaking in your region, we encourage you to visit a22network.org.
Reuters recently reported on a significant legal battle that has emerged in response to what some young people perceive as government inaction regarding climate change. In particular, 6 young individuals from Portugal have taken the initiative to take 32 European countries to court, citing their deep concern over the lack of action following devastating wildfires in 2017. This case, which was filed in September 2020, targets not only the 27 EU member states, but also Britain, Switzerland, Norway, Russia, and Turkey. Its objective is to obtain a legally binding decision that compels these governments to take decisive measures to combat climate change. The plaintiffs firmly believe that concrete actions are urgently needed in order to mitigate the damaging effects of climate change. The hearing for this case has been scheduled for September 27th, marking a significant moment in the ongoing battle against climate inaction. Should the plaintiffs succeed in obtaining a favourable outcome, it could potentially set a precedent for other individuals and groups seeking to hold governments accountable for their environmental responsibilities.
According to an article in The Guardian, the International Institute for Sustainable Development think tank has revealed that coal, oil, and gas industries received an unprecedented $1.4 trillion in public subsidies in 2022. This figure represents a significant increase from the previous year and is equivalent to $3.1 billion per day. The IISD report highlights that the G20 countries, the world's largest economies, are regressing on their commitments to reduce fossil fuel subsidies. The report emphasizes the urgent need for governments to phase out these subsidies entirely by 2025 and redirect the funds towards investments in clean energy initiatives. This substantial financial support for fossil fuels stands in contrast to the promises made at the recent COP26 climate summit. Despite international pledges to combat climate change and transition to cleaner energy sources, the public funding allocated to fossil fuels continues to rise. The report characterizes this trend as a concerning backslide. The urgency of addressing climate change and transitioning to renewable energy sources cannot be overstated. The IISD's call for an end to fossil fuel subsidies aligns with the global consensus that governments must prioritize sustainable alternatives. Redirecting these substantial financial resources into clean energy projects will not only accelerate the transition, but also create opportunities for innovation, job creation, and a sustainable future.
According to a recent article titled Renewables Shine Bright, 25% of US electricity from green sources on the website Energy Live News, the use of renewable energy sources in the US has continued to show promising growth. Recent data reveals that solar energy production in June exceeded hydropower generation, while small-scale solar experienced a remarkable growth rate of over 25%. Analysis conducted by the Sunday campaign indicates that renewable energy sources accounted for 25.11% of the US electrical generation during the first half of 2023. This information is based on the latest data released by the US Energy Information Administration. Comparatively, this figure represents a slight increase from the 25.06% recorded during the same period in 2022. The significant rise in solar energy production and the growth of small-scale solar indicate a positive trajectory for renewable energy generation in the US. This data highlights the increasing contribution of green sources to the overall electricity generation in the country. As the nation continues to prioritize and invest in renewable energy, it is expected that this trend will continue to strengthen in the coming years.
In a landmark development, Ecuador has made the decisive move to reject oil drilling in the Amazon, as mandated by a binding referendum. State oil company Petroecuador will be required to begin dismantling its operations there in the coming months. This significant decision not only reflects the nation's commitment to addressing climate change, but also showcases its dedication to safeguarding one of the most ecologically diverse areas on the planet.
According to a recent article published by Climate Change News, Germany's climate plan has come under scrutiny due to its failure to achieve net zero emissions. Germany is unlikely to meet its target of net zero emissions by 2045, according to a report by government climate advisors. The report found that Germany is not on track to meet its emissions reduction targets for 2030, which are a key stepping stone to net zero. Buildings and transportation sectors are the main areas where Germany is falling short. The report also warned that Germany's current climate policies are not ambitious enough to meet the 2045 target.
According to a recent article published by Carbon Brief, the risk of heat-related deaths has seen a significant increase over the past 2 decades. The study suggests that if emissions are not reduced, this trend is likely to continue in the future. It is important to note that certain groups of individuals are particularly vulnerable to heat-related deaths. These include the elderly, the sick, and those residing in urban areas. As temperatures rise, these populations face a higher risk of succumbing to heat-related illnesses. The article also references a study that reveals a strong link between climate change and heat-related deaths. Astonishingly, more than 1/3 of all heat-related deaths reported between 1991 and 2018 can be attributed to climate change. Additionally, the study projects that if current emission rates persist, Europe could witness a 50% spike in heat-related deaths, while Africa may experience a staggering 150% increase by the end of the century. This research underscores the urgent need to address climate change and curb greenhouse gas emissions. Failure to do so could lead to dire consequences, including a significant rise in heat-related deaths globally.
On today's episode, we covered upcoming climate protests, a historic climate lawsuit, the G20's fossil fuel subsidies, renewable energy progress in the US, Ecuador's environmental victory, Germany's climate plan shortcomings, and the alarming rise in heat-related deaths, highlighting the urgency for emissions reduction. Thanks for listening to today's episode. I'll see you guys at the next one. And don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast with your friends, and visit all our social media channels. Links are, as always, in the description box.